Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we were diving into one of the most intense developments in the Ukraine-Russia war, as both sides escalate attacks that are shaping the battlefield and affecting millions of civilians. In recent days, Ukraine has carried out targeted strikes on Russian fuel infrastructure, while Russia has intensified its bombardment on key Ukrainian cities. These actions are not just random attacks. They are strategic moves with long-term consequences. So let's break down what happened, why it matters, and what it could mean moving forward. Ukraine's recent drone strikes against Russian fuel infrastructure have drawn a lot of international attention. Reports indicate that Ukrainian forces targeted a major fuel pipeline near Moscow, a facility that plays a crucial role in supplying the Russian military with jet fuel, diesel, and gasoline. By damaging sections of this pipeline, Ukraine aims to disrupt Russia's military logistics. Without adequate fuel, moving heavy vehicles, aircraft, and equipment becomes slower and more difficult. Although it might not bring instant results on the front line, these kinds of strikes can weaken Russia's ability to sustain long-term operations. They send a strong message. Ukraine is capable of hitting deep inside Russian territory, and its drone capabilities are evolving. Meanwhile, multiple fires broke out at an oil terminal on Russia's Black Sea coast after another round of Ukrainian drones reportedly hit port infrastructure. These port facilities are vital, not only for supplying local regions but also for supporting operations across the Black Sea. For Ukraine, disabling them may limit Russia's mobility and could reduce Russia's capacity to support naval activity. Fuel terminals are usually well guarded, so the fact that Ukraine continues to reach them shows increasing technical precision and intelligence-gathering capabilities. It also demonstrates a shift. Ukraine is no longer solely defending its territory, but actively targeting the systems that fuel the war. On the other side, Russia has stepped up missile and drone attacks on key Ukrainian cities, particularly targeting the country's energy infrastructure. With winter approaching, this strategy is especially brutal. Millions rely on electricity for heating, cooking, and essential services. Recent attacks caused a full power outage across the Donetsk region, leaving homes in the dark and hospitals under pressure. Russia has used this tactic before, and history shows it can be devastating. By crippling energy grids, the goal is to break morale, strain resources, and force the government to shift focus from the battlefield to humanitarian needs. It's psychological warfare mixed with military strategy, aiming to wear down civilian resilience rather than directly change front lines. Another part of the intensifying conflict is the ongoing battle around Pokrovsk, a city in eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian special forces have been deployed to support frontline defenders as Russian troops continue pressuring the region. Pokrovsk holds strategic importance due to its railway connections and supply routes. Losing control of it would make it harder for Ukraine to reinforce other cities along the eastern front. Reports suggest that the fighting there has been fierce, with both sides suffering losses. Ukrainian officials insist they are holding out, but the situation remains fluid and dangerous. Battles like this one often become symbols of national endurance, and victory or defeat can influence morale nationwide. Russia has also targeted civilian areas in the Odesa region. A recent drone strike hit a parking lot, damaging vehicles and taking innocent lives. These types of attacks highlight the unpredictable nature of modern warfare, where drones can strike far from the front line, and civilians often pay the price. When infrastructure, transportation hubs, and residential zones are hit, recovery becomes tougher. Beyond the physical destruction, there's widespread fear, trauma, and displacement. Thousands have already fled, fearing more strikes. As both countries escalate operations, international reactions are mixed. Some Western nations continue offering military and financial support to Ukraine, arguing that defending sovereignty is essential. Others worry that expanding attacks deep inside Russia could trigger unpredictable retaliation. Russia accuses Ukraine and its allies of escalating the war, even though Russia's own missile strikes continue daily. These political battles unfold alongside the military ones, shaping public opinion, foreign policy, and global security discussions. It's important to understand why fuel infrastructure has become such a critical target. Modern militaries rely heavily on mobility. Tanks require diesel, jets require aviation fuel, supply trucks need gasoline. If any of these elements are disrupted, the Army's ability to fight weakens. Damaging fuel transport lines can create delays, shortages, and logistical bottlenecks. Even a temporary disruption can force Russia to reroute supplies, increasing pressure on transportation networks. Additionally, repairing pipelines and terminals costs time and resources. For Ukraine, this strategy may provide indirect relief to defenders on the front line. For civilians in Ukraine, the increased Russian attacks are devastating. Winter temperatures can drop far below freezing, making heating essential. When power grids are damaged, families struggle to stay warm, and elderly or sick individuals face life-threatening conditions. Emergency crews rush to restore power, but repeated strikes make repairs extremely difficult. Hospitals rely on backup generators, which also need fuel, making the situation even more complicated. These ongoing strikes are not just tactical. They erode everyday life, forcing people to adapt to instability. Looking at the broader picture, this escalation signals that neither side is willing to step back. Ukraine wants to show it can strike key Russian assets, hoping to pressure Moscow into negotiations or at least slow its war machine. Russia wants to demonstrate that it can still inflict significant damage and that pushing deeper into Ukrainian territory remains a strategic priority. The battle over infrastructure suggests both nations are preparing for a prolonged campaign rather than a quick resolution. In wars, supply lines are often just as important as weapons. Tanks and missiles mean little if you cannot power them. Economically, these attacks play another role. Oil terminals, pipelines, and power stations are expensive to build and repair. Every strike adds financial strain. Russia may have large reserves, but consistent damage forces budget adjustments, slows exports, and can ripple through markets. Ukraine, meanwhile, relies on international aid to repair what has been lost, and repeated strikes mean constant rebuilding. Economists warn that infrastructure wars can drag both sides into long-term financial hardship. As the conflict evolves, technology remains at the center. Drones, satellite intelligence, and precision targeting are shaping today's battlefield more than ever before. Ukraine's increasing drone capabilities show how warfare is changing. Smaller, cheaper systems can do damage that once required expensive missiles. Russia's use of drones to target power stations also demonstrates how these tools can bypass traditional defenses. Civilians are adapting by building shelters, reinforcing windows, and preparing emergency kits. Even this simple change in daily life shows how deeply the war has affected society. In the coming weeks, analysts expect more strategic strikes. Ukraine will likely continue targeting energy supply systems inside Russia, hoping to weaken logistics before winter advances. Russia may double down on power grid attacks, attempting to force blackouts and challenge Ukraine's resilience. The international community will watch closely, especially considering the humanitarian impact. Relief organizations are already preparing for increased aid shipments, including generators, medical supplies, and food. Despite the destruction, Ukrainian officials remain defiant, insisting these attacks will not break the country's spirit. Russia, meanwhile, claims that it will continue until its goals are achieved. As both sides dig deeper, the world is watching a conflict where technology, infrastructure, and endurance matter just as much as the battlefield. Civilians continue to hope for peace, yet the reality on the ground remains harsh. That's our deep dive into the latest development. Ukraine striking fuel infrastructure as Russian attacks intensify across key cities. If you found this explanation helpful, make sure to stay tuned for more updates. Thanks for watching, and take care until next time.